Hey everybody, welcome back to myRE360's Be Your Own General Contractor. My name is Adonis Lockett, and in this module, we're actually in front of a house pre-renovation. We're going to use the myRE360 Rehab Estimator to help us evaluate everything that we should consider as part of renovating this project. So I'm going to grab the app and let's get started. So the great thing about the Rehab Estimator is that it does not require me to try to remember all the things that I should look for, and it helps me ensure that I don't overlook anything. So I'm going to pay close attention to the line items that are outlined in the Estimator tool to make sure that everything that needs to be considered is properly accounted for. So the first thing the tool has me doing is looking at the roof. So let's just take a look at the roof. And based off of the first glance, the roof seems to be in great condition. It looks actually fairly newer. And it's asking, does it need any repair work? So at first glance, I don't see anything that would suggest that the roof needs to be repaired. But again, it's also something that you want to have a roofer come out and take a look at just to be safe. The very next question, does the roof need to be replaced? Now, nothing on the roof suggests that it needs to be repaired. So I'm just going to select NA, suggesting that the roof does not need to be replaced. Now, the very next line item asks, how many linear feet of gutter needs to be repaired or installed? Now, taking a look at the house, you'll see that there is actually no gutter installed. So it's probably a good idea to allocate a number that's required to be installed, just to make sure that you don't have rain that's going to create foundation or structural issues at a later time. Next line item, how many square feet of wood trim, soffit, or fascia needs to be replaced? Now, if you don't know what that is, your fascia is actually the front-facing piece of wood that's right underneath your roof. That's considered fascia. Your soffit is the wood directly under your fascia that's down facing the ground. So you typically want to evaluate anytime you have fascia or soffit dry rot, because that typically means you have a roof issue. So you want to pay close attention anytime it's inquiring about fascia and soffit repair. Next line item, exterior windows. How many exterior windows need to be repaired or replaced? So as I'm looking at along the front of the house, nothing about the windows suggests that they need to be repaired. The glass doesn't appear to be broken. So I'm going to say that the windows are actually in good working order, and I'm going to select 0 for the amount of windows to be repaired or replaced. Next question, what percent of the exterior siding needs to be repaired or replaced? Now again, taking a look at the front of the house, the siding, the wood, everything seems to be in great shape. So for that particular line item, I'm going to select 0 for the amount of repairs needed for that line item. The next thing, how much of the exterior needs to be painted? Now, this can be a very costly item. So let's take a look at the rest of the street to see if this house is in line with the rest of the neighborhood. So starting to my right, you'll notice the stone house, nicely done. And as you start going across the street, you'll notice that all the other houses have been nicely painted, have a nice fresh curb appeal, look great, great colors on the trim. And then you come around to subject property and it sticks out like a sore thumb. This tells you that this house does not conform with the neighborhood, so I probably want to implement 100% painting on the exterior of the house. Next line item, how many linear feet of fence needs to be repaired or replaced? Now, standing in the front of the house, you can't really see the fence, so I'm going to make sure to revisit this at a later time when we get into the backyard. Next line item, how many square feet of decking or porch needs to be repaired or replaced? Now, at first glance, porch seems to be in great shape. The concrete doesn't seem to be broken, so I'm going to say 0 effort required for decking and porch. And finally, on your exterior, per the Rehab Estimator, how much should you allocate for your landscaping? Now, you've recently panned around the neighborhood. Let's take a look at what the landscaping at this property looks like. So the landscaping is very much overgrown, a lot of trees, kind of all over the place, leaves in the yard, not a lot of curb appeal. So I'd actually want to put a pretty decent amount in place for my landscaping, because if I'm trying to sell this house, I want the first impression of this house to be impressive, and I want it to stand out. So I typically like to go a little bit excessive on my landscaping just to make sure it captures any potential renter or buyer. So that's it on the exterior of the house. Now let's walk in, see what we got lined up. Now that we're on the inside of the house, I do want to highlight one thing that I would recommend that you always want to do before actually inputting information in the Rehab Estimator. Do a full lap around the exterior of the house. Do a full lap around the interior of the house so you can get an overall feel of the condition of the property before you start evaluating the things you do or don't want to do. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because when you walk into a project, you may see that, hey, the paint is in good shape, but by the time you make it to the back of the property, the paint is really beat up, there's holes in the drywall, so you'll end up having to double back in the Estimator app to update the information. So make sure you take a few minutes to walk the interior and the exterior of the house, know what your thoughts are about the condition, and then start your evaluation so you can get it right the first time through. Now, with that said, I'm actually going to let the app guide me line by line of all the things that I need to consider. Now, I've done my walk around the exterior, I've done my walk throughout the interior, so I have a pretty good idea of the condition and the things that need to be done. So now I'm going to input this information into the app and let it tell me roughly what my project is going to cost. So the first line item is, how much am I allocating for demo and haul off? Now, after going through the entire project, the house is vacant and there are going to be a couple things that will have to be trashed out. So I'm going to say that the demo and haul off is basic or average in nature, depending on how aggressive I want to be with some of the things I want to get rid of. I definitely am going to demo the kitchen and baths, and I got to make sure that I got space for any additional trash that's going to come up in the middle of the renovation. So we'll get to those in just a moment. Now, the very next question it asked me, what percent of the interior do I want to be repainted? Now, this particular project is going to be a sale. So I'd want the first impression to be the lasting impression. So instead of trying to salvage a room or the paint looks okay in 1 or 2 rooms, I'd rather just paint the entire interior, give it a fresh new look. So I'm going to input that the interior paint is going to be 100%. Now that I've covered the top 2 or 3 things to consider, the demo and the interior paint, we're going to move over into the individual rooms. So the first room is the kitchen. Let's check it out. Now, the great thing about the Rehab Estimator is that it actually clusters the rooms together. So when I walk into the kitchen, it gives me the order of things that I should be considering in the kitchen, all in a single span of questions. So it doesn't have you bouncing around throughout the house. Anytime it's asking questions or having me evaluate any particular item, it's having me evaluate everything in each room. So for example, in the kitchen, the first question is, how many linear feet of countertop am I looking to replace? Now, based on the condition of the countertop, you can see that this pink countertop is a little bit dated. It's very 70s, 80s, and it's not what it is in today. So I'm going to put in that about 50 feet or so of countertop is going to need to be replaced. Now, I don't have a tape measure, so at this point, what I want to do is just use my best guess. And that's okay for now, because if I decide to move forward with this project, I can come in and take actual measurements and update this particular line item accordingly. The very next question it asked me, how many kitchen faucets need to be replaced? And what quality of faucet am I looking to use? So taking a look at this faucet, you can see, again, very basic in nature, kind of outdated. But if I'm going to replace the kitchen countertops, it's a good idea to probably replace the sink, considering that this is a sale project. And again, I'm just going to select my quality, whether I want to go basic, average, or high end. Now, next thing is asking me, how many square feet of tile backsplash do I want to add or replace? Now, taking a look at the backsplash here, again, you see that very retro, kind of out of date pink. So we want to get away from the pink, so I'm definitely going to allocate the backsplash being replaced. Now, I put an allocation of about 35 to 50 linear feet of countertop. So based off of the height of the backsplash, let's just say that that's 2 feet. I'm going to double my 50 linear feet by the 2 foot height. So that's 100 square feet of tile backsplash that I'm going to input that I want to have replaced. And again, I just select average, high end, or basic for my quality. Next thing, how many appliances need to be replaced, and what quality of appliance am I looking to use. So based off of the condition of the current appliances, you can see they're very beat up, very much outdated, you know, a lot of discoloration. So I definitely want to replace the appliances to something more favorable for the sales price that I'm going for. So I definitely want to input that I want to replace all 3 of my major appliances. And again, based off of the sales price I'm going for, I'm going to select basic, average, or high end. And in this example, I'm going to select average. Now, the next question is, how much am I allocating for the repair of the kitchen cabinets? Now, based on first glance, the cabinets seem to be in good shape. They actually seem to not have much damage to it. So in regards to how much am I going to allocate for repairs, I'm going to select 0, or I'm actually going to select N/A. So the repairs are not applicable for this particular project. Now, next question, how much are we allocating to replace the cabinets? Now notice, repairing cabinets is different than replacing the cabinets, and the costs are much different as well. So again, at first glance at these cabinets, all of the cabinets throughout the kitchen are in really good shape. So I'm going to put N/A for the cost to replace the cabinets because it's not necessary. How many cabinet pulls need to be replaced or installed? So in this particular instance, I would actually count the number of cabinet pulls, not only just in the kitchen, but in the bathroom as well. Identify the number of cabinet pulls, input it, select the quality, basic, average, or high end, and it'll tell me exactly what my expected cost for that line item would be. So now the next line item has me evaluating items in the bathroom, which leads me to believe that I'm done in the kitchen. So I typically like to do just a quick sweep to make sure that I've accounted for everything. And after taking a look around the kitchen, countertops, cabinets, appliances, it looks like I've considered everything. So now we're gonna move over into the bathroom. So now we've moved into the bathroom. And just as we did in the kitchen, I'm gonna let the app guide me in all the things that I should consider for this renovation. So the first question is, how many bathroom vanities need to be repaired or replaced? Now you can see the vanity that's currently in the property is again that old school pink tile. Cabinet doors seem to be beat up. So you'd actually spend more money trying to fix this than you would to replace it. So I'm going to say that, hey, I need to replace not only the vanity in this bathroom, but the vanity in the second bathroom as well. So I'm going to select 2 vanities, and it's going to ask me what quality, basic, average, or high end. And again, since the kitchens and bathrooms is what sell a house, I'm actually going to select high end. That's going to allocate a pretty decent number for my vanity, but I also know that this is where I really want to put the effort into going for a sale. Next question, how many bathroom faucets need to be replaced? And again, since I'm replacing the vanities, it just makes sense to put 2 faucets, and again, either average or high-end faucet to match the quality of vanity that we're replacing. How many toilets need to be replaced? And the great thing about this app is that you'll see how marginal the costs are in each line item. So I'm going to say that we're going to replace 2 toilets, and you'll see that market rates for a toilet is about $100 a toilet. So instead of keeping an old, worn out, beat up toilet, I'd rather just allocate $100 to replace it and give it a whole brand new look, which will tie into a completely overhauled bathroom. How many tubs, shower pans need to be repaired or replaced? Now, in this particular instance, the tub is in really bad shape. Now, do we necessarily need to replace the tub? You can actually get it re-epoxied or resurfaced to give it a brand new look without having to spend the money to replace it. So I am going to say that the tub does require to be repaired or replaced. I'm going to input the amount. I'm going to say in both bathrooms we need to replace them. I'm going to select the quality of average, and it'll give me a cost of what I can expect to have the tubs resurfaced. How many square feet of shower surround do I want to have repaired or replaced? Now, taking a look again at this shower surround, you see we have that very hip but outdated pink, which I'd probably want to get rid of if I want to sell and have some appeal to the bathroom. So I'm going to allocate roughly about 250 square feet for a shower surround, which tends to be very, very common to replace the tile around the shower. 250 square feet, give or take, is pretty standard that you can expect. Next question, what % of flooring needs to be replaced? Now, this line item, you want to try to make all inclusive. so you're not spending a lot of time differentiating tile flooring versus wood flooring. So the flooring is actually an overall collective that it's asking. So let's take a lap around the house and figure out what our line item for our flooring we need to replace. So you'll notice the next line item is flooring. And as you're walking from the living room into the bedrooms, hallways, and bathrooms, you'll notice that you have 3 different types of flooring. And the one thing that you want to have in a project like this is consistency in the quality and the style of a material that's in your house. So you definitely want to input a line item for your flooring. Now the great thing about this particular line item is you just input the amount of square foot of flooring needed to be replaced or repaired. You identify whether it's basic, average, or high end, and it'll actually tell you the amount of flooring that line item costs. So again, the tool does a lot of the heavy lifting in helping you properly allocate what you're going to spend on each line item. Next thing is asking what % of insulation, drywall, or sheetrock needs to be repaired. Now, since we're not reconfiguring this house, I'm going to input 0 for that particular line item, and then we're going to move on to the next. Very next question, how many square feet of framing subfloor needs to be included or repaired? Again, since we're not reconfiguring any of the house or replacing any of the subfloor, I'm going to select 0 and move on to the next line item. Next, how many interior doors need to be replaced? Now I've went through and counted up all the interior doors, and you'll notice as you start panning through, these are much older doors than you typically see in updated houses. So I'm actually going to input 8 interior doors need to be replaced. My quality is going to be average, which is typical, pretty standard for this price point of house. And from there, next line item is how many door knobs. So since I'm replacing new doors, I want my knobs to be new, just like my doors. So I'm going to input 8 doorknobs as well. Now the next thing, how many ceiling fans and light fixtures need to be repaired or replaced? Now, since I'm doing a full renovation, when you have light fixtures from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, ceiling fans that are kind of falling apart, you don't necessarily want those to be in the house that's being fully renovated. So I counted up, there are going to be 13 total light fixtures and ceiling fans that are going to be replaced throughout the house. So I go ahead and input 13. And I want my ceiling fans to be a little bit nicer, so I'm going to select high end, and it's going to tell me the cost of that line item. And finally, on my interior walk, it's asking me how much am I allocating for fireplace repair or any updates that are needed. Now, the great thing about this particular item is that you don't really input a square foot. You just select whether you want to do a basic repair, an average, or kind of a higher end upgrade. So if I decided I wanted to stack stone the fireplace or do something really fancy with it, I would just select high end, and then it'll go ahead, whatever I decide to do, the app itself will give me a rough idea of what I should expect to spend for that particular line item. So now that we've finished the interior, we're going to move on to the next category, our trade services. Now, there are going to be some things that are not captured in your walk. So the app tries to be as consistent as humanly possible with all of the things that you should consider, but not every house is the same. So we're going to show you how, if there's anything abstract or kind of that is not captured, where you can input any specialty items at the end. So now that I'm reviewing our trade services, it's asking how much plumbing repair am I anticipating? Now, based off of walking the house looks to have been very well taken care of. So I'm going to say that my plumbing repair is just average, just to give me a good, comfortable line item allocation for any plumbing and repairs that I'm not able to see during an initial walkthrough. Next, how much repair is needed to repair or replace the water heater? So let's take a look at the water heater. So now, in my first glance at the water heater, I'm no plumber, but this water heater does have some life on it. So I can expect that at bare minimum, I probably want to allocate some basic maintenance of the water heater, if not a full replacement of it itself. Now, when you turn the water on and the hot water works fine, you don't see any leaks, I would still recommend you put an allocation of maybe an average, just basic line item in case something does require to be maintenance on your water heater. The very next thing, how much electrical repair work needs to be done. Now, typically in a house that looks like someone has taken care of it and just moved out of, I don't see anything that suggests there are electrical issues. We don't see any open outlets. But again, I just like to put a line item just to account for any general maintenance. So I'm going to select basic, and it's going to give me a line item cost just in case there is something that needs to be done. Now, the great thing is, if nothing needs to be done to this line item, I just save that amount of money I don't have to spend. But it's always good to kind of over allocate versus under allocate, so this way you don't find yourself in a bind for not accounting for things that you didn't think needed to be done, but ultimately did need to be done. Now, the next line item is your HVAC system. So now at first glance on my HVAC system, again, I'm not an HVAC technician, but it looks like there's things torn. It looks like there's a couple wires loose. You see some drywall down. So I'm going to input that I need some basic maintenance on the HVAC system just to make sure I can properly allocate for work being done. Now, the HVAC system is one of those few things you really don't want to cut corners with. You want to make sure you have a proper allocation to make sure your property is properly cooled and heated. So I'm going to put that our AC system is average, that it needs some average attention, and that's going to allocate, how much I'm going to spend on just basic HVAC maintenance, if anything at all. My next item is how much foundation repair is required. Now, depending on what state you're in, foundation repair may be, every 8 of 9 houses or 9 of 10 houses are going to require foundation repair, or foundation repair may be one of those very rare and far and few in between tens of thousands of dollars repair item. Whatever it is, the Rehab Estimator tool will try to allocate what you can typically expect to pay for foundation based on your local market. But for this particular project, I didn't see a lot of things that suggested it needs foundation repair. So I'm actually going to input N/A for that particular line item. Now, the next question, how much concrete or brick repair is needed? I'm going to select N/A. I didn't see anything on the exterior brick that says we need to have work done, so I'm going to skip that one. How many plans and permits are needed? Again, this is a very standard cosmetic plug and chug, so I'm going to say N/A for that one. How much garage door opener track work is needed? Now, at the beginning of the project, as we were walking the exterior, we did not call out garage doors. Now, because I am renovating this entire project, it's probably a good idea to replace the garage doors to make it match the more modern or updated look that I want this house to showcase. So I'm actually going to input the average line item for repairing or replacing the garage doors and potentially the openers. Next line item, how much pest services are needed? Now, walking through the property, nothing suggests that there's any type of rodents or pests in the house, so I'm going to select N/A. What about mold, asbestos, or lead-based paint? Again, nothing that suggests these are here, so I'm going to select N/A. And finally, how much do you need for final cleaning? So this rehab is going to be cosmetic in nature. I don't foresee this being a really big cleaning job for any cleaning service, so I'm going to select average just to give me kind of down the middle cost that I would expect to pay to have a cleaning company come in. So that's it for our trade services, and now we're going to move on to our last item, our miscellaneous. So now that I've entered the miscellaneous section of the Rehab Estimator, next line item is asking me how much are you allocating for miscellaneous. Now, the house seems to be pretty straightforward in nature, but you still always want to allocate just for incidentals and miscellaneous costs or fees. So I'm going to say average, and it's going to give me an allocation just for an average miscellaneous line item. Next question is, how much is the general contractor fee? Now again, the name of this education series is Be Your Own General Contractor, but that does not mean that you're not bringing on a project manager or someone to help you manage the project. So if that is the case, you can select any one of the line items at basic, average, or high end, and it'll actually give you an allocation on that particular line item. Now remember, at any point during this process, if you input a number or you input a quality that doesn't line up with what you think something should cost, you can always click on that particular line item, input the actual number, and click done, and it'll actually save for that particular line item. So you're not stuck to just the numbers allocated in the tool. You can edit those at your convenience. Another cool thing about the tool is that, let's just say that we were walking through the house and there were a bunch of different things that we saw that the app did not call for. You will actually have about 5 or 6 blank lines within the Rehab Estimator tool that you can input different abstract items that need to be done, provide a description, and provide the corresponding cost with that line item. So you can be as flexible and creative with all of the things that you want, even if it is not included in the app itself. So the app is built to be very customizable and allow you to incorporate anything that you typically want to do to your project. So now that we've completely walked the property, it's safe to say that we've considered pretty much all of the things that need to be done in the property. So if you're going off to your next project, you can create new projects and have as many Rehab Estimate projects as you like. One thing I would always typically recommend is that before you leave the project, do another lap around the exterior, do another lap around the interior, make sure to check all the switches, check the plumbing, just to make sure you haven't overlooked anything. Do a quick sweep on the Rehab Estimator tool, and if you're comfortable with the information that was provided, with the click of a button, you can hit the send via email, and this estimate will actually be emailed to your account that's associated with your myRE360 registration. So just like that, not only have you evaluated the house, you've actually put a rehab estimate together and emailed it to yourself, all at the click of a button from a single platform. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed doing this tour with you. Make sure you register an account with www.myRE360.com. Download the app. This tool is going to help streamline your rehab business and is going to be the best way to help you manage your project and be your own GC. My name is Adonis Lockett. Thank you for joining me. Find me on social media at Adonis Lockett. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you back in the studio.